French New Wave auteur Roger Vadim, Fonda's husband, would direct a screenplay written by Terry Southern, notorious co-author of the comic porn novel Candy. When Barbarella was released in 1968, Terry Southern and 7 other writers were credited with a screenplay that made no sense after the first few campy scenes. Roger Vadim's studio sets looked cheap, and the dialogue was pathetic. But even so, Jane Fonda's striptease early in the film seemed to bring highly sexed Barbarella to life. The movie was both hailed as a pop art masterpiece and derided as the worst sci-fi picture ever made. Nevertheless, Barbarella was a huge success in Europe, especially in England, where it was the second highest grossing film of the year. 10 years later, 2 teenage boys were watching Barbarella on television in Hollywood. This wasn't in Southern California's glamour capital, but in the suburb of Hollywood, located in southern Birmingham, England's second biggest city. The date was October 20th, 1978. The BBC was broadcasting Barbarella, and the boys, Nigel John Taylor, 18, and his 16-year-old friend, Nick Bates, were entranced. Nigel and Nick had been friends for 4 years. They were huge music fans who were extremely knowledgeable about rock bands and new trends, and they were currently forming a band with another friend. None of the teens could actually play musical instruments at this point, but this didn't seem important. With their boyish androgynous looks and lashings of eyeshadow and lip gloss, Nigel and Nick already resembled emerging pop stars of the new wave, new romantic, post-punk era. Their current preoccupation was finding a name for their new band. Earlier that day, the boys spent hours in a pub called The Hole in the Wall, trying to think of names. They had been going to concerts and shows together since 1974, and they were very tuned in to David Bowie, T-Rex, and especially Roxy music. Later on, they were regulars at Barbarella's, a converted warehouse that was Birmingham's main venue for the punk bands coming up from London. Sex Pistols, Slits, The Jam, The Damned, The Clash. Nick strongly suggested that they should call their band RAF, as in the Royal Air Force. Peering at Nick through his thick spectacles, nearsighted Nigel said he thought this sounded a bit naff, or pretentious. Still thinking about band names, they left the pub and went to Nick's house to tune in to Barbarella on the Bates family's big color TV set. As the movie began on BBC One, the boys tried to make sense of the totally daft plot, in which Barbarella crash lands on Earth and is taken to meet the president of Earth. Upon her arrival, Barbarella strips off her clothes, and the president explains that an evil scientist, Duran Duran, played by the veteran comedian Milo O'Shea, has purloined the excessive machine, designed to provide women with supersonic sexual pleasure, thus eliminating the need for men. The president then tells Barbarella that only she can save humankind from extinction. "Your mission," the president directs Barbarella, "is to find Duran Duran and preserve the security of the stars." Nigel jumped up. "That's it! That's our name!" Nick was confused. "Wait, what's our name?" "Duran Duran." It was fine with Nick. Duran Duran sounded cool and futuristic, and unlike any other of the new bands they liked. Bands that had names like Human League, Simple Minds, and Tubeway Army. Nick loved Barbarella, and later said he knew that any connection with this Euro kitsch classic had to be a good thing for them. Asked much later why the band's name wasn't Duran Duran, Nigel, who later went by the name John Taylor, replied that it was because they couldn't hear the final D's in the film, nor the intervening hyphen. So Duran Duran it was, and still is. Nigel in Birmingham. The double-barreled name wasn't the only thing that set Duran Duran apart from most other rock bands. Most bands are formed around a charismatic lead singer or a virtuoso.